Welcome back to the podcast, ladies and gentlemen. We're having an awesome conversation today. We are talking about how to have open, honest conversations with your partner, and not just in a relationship, but this will show up a lot in a relationship, but with friends, co-workers, family members. How do you have really honest conversations where you might actually give the person some feedback or just an open conversation in general? How do you have those conversations to, one, get your point across, but two, make the other person or the people involved feel validated? So how do you not invalidate how they feel or their opinion or their perspective, but also get your point across? It's quite a challenging thing when you think about that, because it can be hard, especially when your ego's out, you're emotional, your child wounds or your inner child is out. It can be really, really challenging. So I wanted to give you guys some awareness and some tips, some tricks, and some tools to hopefully help you navigate through this. Now, where did this podcast come from? Why did I jump on and do this podcast? I was with my beautiful partner, my queen, Georgia. She's in the other room, so she'll probably hear me making this podcast. And we drove down to the park to take our dog. I have a sausage dog, for anyone that doesn't know that. His name is Dexter. He's a rock star. And we'll take him for a walk down at the park. And me and Georgia, we just kind of kept butting heads a little bit, and our egos kind of kept showing up a little bit. And we got a little bit heated as we were going, just having little sort of disagreements. And I think it was me, and I said, babe, why do we keep doing this? Like, why? It keeps coming up, and something kind of appeared to me is like, I'm trying to hold her accountable to something. Like, there was something that she was doing that wasn't necessarily serving her, from my opinion, and I was trying to get her to see it, but I kept invalidating how she felt, and her ego kept showing up, and it was kind of like a vicious little cycle. So we kind of went around in circles for a little bit. And we didn't get too heated. Like, we've got to a point now where we can really balance those conversations. They don't really spiral out to big arguments anymore. They just become kind of like emotional discussions, for a better term. And anyway, so after about literally 30 seconds, I had a question. Something hit me. I'm like, how do you have conversations to get your point across? Because she saw the point I was trying to make. I said, and this will tie into the steps I'm going to give you guys. It's like, how do I get my point across where you can see where I'm coming from without invalidating where you're coming from? I'm like, that's quite interesting question. And then we went a little bit further, and I was like, babe, where do our emotions show up in our relationship, and not just our relationship, in our life? Because obviously your partner is going to know you better than anyone, right? They're going to live with you. Maybe not. They might live with you. They're probably going to live with you. You're probably going to spend the most amount of time with this person. They're probably going to get to know you the most, more than anyone. So they're going to know the real vulnerable, raw version of you, right? They're going to see you at your lowest and at your highest as well. So then we start asking questions like, babe, where does my ego show up the most? Where does my emotions show up the most? And where can we improve? Which I'll get to by the end of this podcast. But I guess just to remind you guys the topic of this video. How do you have those open, honest conversations with your partner to give each other feedback or I guess help each other grow and become more conscious to get your point across, but also allow them to feel seen, feel validated, and feel heard? Because it's definitely something that I've struggled with a lot. But I feel like I've done a lot of growth in this area, a lot of healing of myself, my wounds, my traumas, etc. And I wanted to just share with you, I guess, what I got out of that conversation. So first thing, this is a tool that I teach my clients that I go through one-on-one or in the programs that I run, is the tool called owning the traits. Essentially, we express all traits. Now, some people won't understand what I mean. Let's use an example. If you're listening to this or you're watching this, however you're consuming this content, I want you, figuratively or literally, put your hand up if you see yourself as an honest person. If you think you're quite an honest person deep down. Yes or no? Most people will whack their hand up in the air. I'm assuming you are if you're listening or watching this. And then I ask the same next question. Who here lies? Be honest with yourself. Do you lie? It might be a white lie, but you still lie. Everyone puts their hand up because everyone does. Because we are one and we are whole. We express all traits. We are honest, like you just admitted that you are, but you also lie. You are nice, but you're also mean. You're giving, but you're also taking. Like, we are not. Some people think the goal is to be always positive, always up, always giving, like all this, like sort of happy I've seen the term toxic positivity, and that's what I refer to by that. Like, you're just always positive, always positive, always positive. Bullshit. We are all up. We are all down. We are everything. If you judge someone, so this is one of the tool in action. When you judge someone for something, a good way, so say you judge someone for being impatient or being mean or whatever it is, I'd isolate the trait you're judging them for and then find where you do that same trait, and it will remove a lot of the judgment that you have over that person. So I like to use that in this example. So when someone, your partner, say for example, is invalidating you, appreciate that you invalidate them somewhere too. Takes two to fucking tango, and we all express all traits. So when you're judging them because they're maybe not listening to you or they're invalidating you, whatever side of the coin that you're on at this stage, just make sure you appreciate you do the same thing. So ask yourself, where in my life do I do the same thing? That's the first step. Second step is you want to learn how to see the other person's perspective. And this can be fucking challenging because I guess depending on your level of consciousness, if you're listening to this video, if you're consuming content like mine, I would assume that you're into some form of self-development or learning or self-healing, whatever you want to sort of categorize it as. So I would assume you're quite a conscious human being. My purpose is to improve the consciousness of humanity. So if you're consuming my stuff, I'm assuming that's kind of important to you in some way, shape or form. So you want to make sure that you learn how to see the other person's perspective, because I'm really guilty of this. Is like in the past, especially early days in my relationship with Georgia and even obviously before that as well, is that something would happen, and this is a very masculine trait. So gentlemen, you probably relate to this, or masculine females who are listening to this, or however you identify yourself as well, is the feminine, whoever's playing that role, that you can be male or female and be the feminine. The feminine would have a problem and the masculine wants to go solve the problem. But most of the time, gentlemen or ladies, the feminine doesn't want you to solve the fucking problem. They just want to be heard and seen and loved and felt. That's what they want. So learning to actually step into your partner's shoes, and again, this will be for relationships, but this could be for friendships and for business relationships and family members and all that stuff. Step into their shoes. Let yourself and ask them to show them the perspective that they see that's gotten them to feel the way they feel or say the way that whatever they're saying. So really take the effort to step in their shoes so you can genuinely say, you know what, thank you for sharing where you're coming from. I can see where you're coming from and mean that. Don't just bullshit cop that out just as a cop out. Really genuinely do your best to see that other person's perspective. Now, second point from that. So step one, appreciate that we all do all traits, right? We are one, we are all, we are everything. Secondly, see the person's perspective. Thirdly, acknowledge their perspectives. Thank you so much for sharing with me. I can understand and appreciate now where you're coming from. I really do appreciate it. Number 4, this is arguably the hardest step in this process. So I want to really help you guys and guide you guys with this. It's extreme ownership. It's a good book by Jocko Willink. I'd really recommend go read it. It's essentially take extreme responsibility and ownership for your life. Now, I live in a world where I truly believe and I embody that you are in control of how you feel at any given moment. Because if you do not subscribe to that belief, by definition, you've actually given your power away to other external forces, whether it's the weather, the government, your family, your parents, your upbringing, whatever it is. You're giving your power away for you to do anything about it. You've literally said, look, I don't control how I feel. That person does, or this thing does, or this thing does. So you've literally given your power and control away to do anything about it. You're literally playing victim. Now, let's pull that back, because about a part of this is how to make the partner not feel validated and not make them feel invalidated. Are there factors that are going to show up that will add to that? Of course there are. If you've got traumas you haven't healed through and you're getting triggered like no tomorrow, and you don't have the consciousness of how to heal through them, follow me and listen to me. I'll be able to show you how to do that. That's one of my things I do. But say you don't have the consciousness or the tools to do that, then you're probably going to be fucking triggered. Your traumas are probably going to show up. You're probably going to be emotional and swing like no tomorrow. If you're highly emotional in terms of hormonal, maybe for the ladies listening to this, it might be your time of the month. You're going to be more hormonal around that time. So is that going to make it harder? Yes, it is. However, the analogy that I use, I probably overuse this analogy. Calm waters never made a great sailor. What do I mean by that? When it's calm waters, blue sky, sunny weather, flat water, no waves, no wind, it's easy to be a great sailor in that time because it's fucking easy. You don't have to do anything. When it's fucking cyclonic, when it's 10-foot, 15-foot waves and it's cyclonic and it's windy and it's rainy, that's when it's a lot challenging, a lot harder to be a great sailor, where you actually have to put effort in and practice. I'm not going to say it's easy. I've never said that. I still can get triggered. I still get emotional at times. I got the tools and the consciousness to catch myself 8-9 times out of 10. But it's when it's harder, it's when you get the growth. It's like when you go to the gym. When you do an exercise and it's fucking easy, or you pick up a weight and it's fucking easy, do you think you're getting much growth from that? Absolutely not. It's when you're like gritting your teeth or like pushing to get that weight up, that's when you get the growth, right? So again, a huge part, of kind of non-negotiable about this is that you need to live in a world or have the belief that you are totally in control of how you feel in any given moment. Okay, this will lead to a tool when I finish this podcast. So that's hard to get to, but if you need help with that, reach out to me. I'm happy to show you. There's tools that I go through, regulating your emotions, breathing, breath work, present, meditation, grounding, all that stuff can add to that stuff, okay? But step 4 is have complete ownership over how you feel at any given moment. Do not blame external forces. You give your power away, and therefore you're playing victim, okay? Number 5, this is, I probably argue didn't put this in a good order, but number 5, the step I do have is make sure when you are having the conversation, your intent and your tonality are coming from a place of service. Your intention is not to attack your partner, hurt your partner. We've all been there. You're in a conversation or a disagreement with your partner and you're getting heated and your emotions are up and you've got that one thing that you could say to your partner that could fucking hurt them. I've been there and I've fucking done it, and I'm not proud to say that I have, because that's not the man that I see myself as. But I've done that. And do you think that's going to raise trust or respect or love or vulnerability or intimacy in the relationship? No, it hurts it. It makes it worse. So when you're in these conversations, remind yourself your intent here is to serve the relationship. Yes, there's going to be challenges. There's going to be disagreements. Welcome to fucking life. If you don't want that, don't get into a relationship. Stay single. So just understand that when those emotions come up, the ego comes up, the inner wounds or the child wounds or the inner child comes up, is just try to remind yourself that your intent here is to improve this relationship and serve the relationship, okay? And that will hopefully translate to your tonality. Tonality is just kind of the tone of your voice that you're using. If you're like, fuck you, etc., and you're using really aggressive tonality, probably not going to come across the same way, right? And then the 5th one for me, this is wrapping this up. 1, 2, 3, 4. I think this is step 6 actually. 2, 4. This is step 6. I'll rehearse this. I'll summarize this at the end. Step 6 is make sure you have, I guess, a tool or a way to actually enforce this, because learning, or I guess adapting this level of consciousness and behavior, it comes from doing it. It's like I don't know. I've heard so many different numbers, so I don't know which one's actually true. But I've heard things like it takes 30 days to create a habit, or 60 days, or 90 days, or 120 days, or I've heard 7 days. I don't know what the actual answer is, but once you start doing this through accountability and through effort and through work, then it becomes natural. It becomes a habit. It becomes easy for you. So we have a tool that we literally created on this walk, and we've used it literally 2 or 3 times since doing that. So we literally had this walk yesterday. I'm making this podcast today. And since yesterday, we've used it 2 or 3 times. So it's working. It's starting to work. It's just having a code word to point out to your partner when they're not taking responsibility for how they feel. But how do you do it? I'm going to use an example to wrap this podcast up, okay? So let's run through that. The goal here is to have an open conversation with your partner to get a point across and also make them feel validated at the same time, okay? So quite a tricky little thing we're trying to do here. First thing, appreciate that you do everything. You invalidate your partner just like they are to you right now. So appreciate that. Don't judge them for that, because the more judgment, then the more friction and negative charge you got there, the more negative emotions are going to come to the party, right? So remove that judgment from the situation as best that you can by owning the traits, okay? Secondly, do your best to see their perspective genuinely, authentically. Try to see where they're coming from. Acknowledge where they're coming from would be step 3. Acknowledge genuinely where they're coming from. Step 4, it's not really a step, it's just a rule within this, is you need to live in a world where you take extreme ownership for how you feel. If you do not believe that and you blame other factors for how you feel in the moment, then this isn't going to work. Nothing's going to work. In fact, you're just going to blame people for the rest of your life for the life that you have. So take responsibility for it, okay? And if you need help with that, because that can trigger people, reach out to me. I'm happy to help and work you through what I just spoke about. Number 5, try use the best intent and tonality whenever that happens, whenever these conversations arise. And then number 6 was have a tool where you can just bring it up and just acknowledge each other and hold each other accountable, and to get, I guess, the habit ingrained as you work through the relationship together. So I hope that made sense. So let's go through it. Let's use an example, right? So we came up with the word watermelon. So we're going to use the word watermelon when we catch each other not taking responsibility for how we feel. And I want to give you an example on what I'm probably going to do. George's, I think I've used it literally once or twice the last couple of days. They weren't huge ones, they're just really minor ones. But let's use an example anyways. Say myself or say Georgia, because I'll say what I'm saying to her. Say she's being quite, I guess, angry, upset, or frustration or stress. And people have their emotional home where they generally will go. Mine's probably frustration or probably anxiety. That's probably the negative emotion I feel the most. So when I feel anxious, that's probably the feeling that I feel the most. But yours might be anger, might be stress, might be overwhelm. It's just a negative emotion, right? Sadness, guilt, whatever it may be. So when I catch Georgia, hers would probably be stress if I had to guess. I'll probably ask her this after this podcast, but I'd say stress. So when she's stressed next, and I'm aware of it, I can see it, because sometimes most of the time it's easier to see from the outside looking in when someone's not okay. I'd say, hey baby, are you okay with me bringing something to your awareness or challenging you on something? And I know things can be hard, and I know that I can totally appreciate things can be adding to this. Like it might be that time of the month, or you've probably got a lot of things on your mind, or there's probably a lot of things going on right now. But I just wanted to use the word watermelon because, baby, I can feel your stress right now. I can feel your negative energy. What can I do to support you through this? And that's it. And depending, I guess, where she's at, how, I guess, highly emotional she is in that time, it might, that might kick off an argument, and then we need to navigate through that. Or I would like to think that we both will get to a point where we can acknowledge exactly where that person's coming from. We can feel the intent coming across from that person and say, you know what? Thank you so much, and challenging me and helping me through that. And thank you, because I've had a lot of stress. I said, babe, what can I help you to get through this? So again, you're acknowledging it. You're not invalidating it. So something I could even add to that is, babe, I don't want to invalidate how you feel, because I'm sure there's a real reason why you're feeling so stressed right now. So I don't want to invalidate that, because you're totally entitled to feel the way that you feel. But I just wanted to use the word watermelon because you and me, you and me believe that we are in control of how we feel, right? So I'm just curious, what can I do for you? Do you want to go for a walk? Do you want to take Dexter to the park? Do you want to, I don't know, go meditate for a bit? You want to do a bit of breath work with me? What would you like to do to help you get out of this state? And that's what I'll do. So I hope that made sense, guys. If you need any help, please reach out, guys. I love what I do. I do what I love. If you're interested in investing into your own growth to help yourself mentally, emotionally, spiritually, work on your traumas, heal through your past, get clear on your purpose in life, overcome anxiety, overcome depression, self-worth, self-sabotage, guilt, I don't know, whatever, I guess, negative mental and emotional experiences that you're going through, I would love to serve you. This is my purpose. This is my passion. I've helped so many people already. I'm going to change the world, hand on heart. I'm going to change the world. If you're new to my content, I will change your life if you allow me to, if you want me to. If you would love for me to serve you, I'd love to serve you. Guys, if this has resonated with you, please share it with a friend. Help one person. Literally just send them this podcast wherever you're listening to this. Help yourself and help one person. And if you're inspired to go deeper with me, I do have services to help you guys with this stuff. We go deep. I when I work with my clients, I say, look, I don't want you to be a client of mine for forever, because that means I'm not actually getting the job done. Like, I've honestly had people that have come to me and say, look, I've been a therapist, I've been doing this for 4 years. I'm like, well, that's not fucking working, is it? Like, you shouldn't be there for 4 years, right? You want to get in there, get the job done. Like, honestly, the average client I have, one-on-one clients anyways, is between 3 to about 6 months, because I want to get the job done. I want to improve the challenge that they're coming to me for. So if that sounds like you, if you're ready to invest properly into your growth, more deeper, intimately with me, and would love for me to guide you through this process, getting clear on your values, who's the authentic version of you, what your purpose is, what your mission is, what your vision is for your life, overcome your ego, your traumas, your triggers, anxiety, depression, what else is there? Guilt, frustration, self-sabotage, self-worth, judgment, and then get clear on a master plan for your life of where you want to go for your life. So you've got a clear plan of what's meaningful to you and a plan to create a life that's meaningful to you. If that resonates with you and that's something that you'd love help with, I'd love to serve you. Reach out to me either on Instagram or Facebook, or I guess wherever you're listening to this. I'd love to connect with you. I'd love to serve you. I'm running a 10-week challenge where we go through that. And yeah, guys, I'd love to serve you guys. Thank you for listening. I love you guys, and I'll see you on the next podcast. Bye.